So I just purchased this bulk lot of Megadrive or SEGA Genesis, depending on where you're from, games and Master System games, as well as a Megadrive or SEGA Genesis itself. This cost me about 220 Australian dollars, which is about 150 US dollars or 110 British pounds. Now these boxes up the top, these are the ones that have games in, the ones at the bottom don't. And then we have these loose games in this corner here. And these Master System games can be played using this game adapter. So based on the ad, the Mega Drive doesn't work, so let's take a look. According to the seller, it powers on but doesn't work. This Mega Drive has seen better days. You can see some chips and scuffs, and on the bottom here the cover is missing. But let's hook it up and see what's wrong. So excuse the crappy video, I'm just using my phone just to record this to show you what it does. If I turn it on, the power light comes on, but the game doesn't show. I've tried this a few times now, I've reseated the cartridge, but no luck. I've also cleaned the cartridge, but nothing seems to be working. So even though it doesn't show the game on the television, it is powering up, which is the good news. Other good news is that it's quite easy to open this one up with 6 Phillips screws. That should do it, and we have the LED holding the two halves together. So if I can pull that plug out. Right, I give it a pull with the tweezers. That's yeah, that's really hard to come out. I'm trying my hands again. I don't want to break it. Is that meant to come out? All right, let's look at the other side. Let's see if we can pull it out from the top, perhaps. So what do we have? Oh, we have another plug and the LED. Let me just focus the camera. Okay, so we have the LED legs. You can see they're split over the sides of that plug. So I might be able to pull the plug over the legs if I straighten them out. So let's give that a try. Strange that I couldn't take the plug out from the board. I don't know if it's stuck there or it just requires a bit more force. I just don't want to break it, that's all. So let's try this way, see if we can get it off. If not, we can try to take it out from the board again. Feels looser. Feels like I might be able to get that off. Just move that wire out the way. That leg, if I straighten that out, might help. Yeah, I reckon that should do it. Let's give it another try. Oh God, that took more effort than I anticipated. Anyway, that's off now, so I move that to one side. Oh, we've got a lovely dust ball that just came out from the console just there. This thing is pretty dirty. Okay, we have some metal shielding and some more screws. Oh, and we have a spider as well that just dropped out. There we go. Let's put that one over there. All right, there are Phillips screws on this metal shielding, so it shouldn't take too much to get that off too. I think that should be it. Look at the dust on that. Okay, so I can pull that off now. Oh, there's one more that's kind of hidden in that corner there. That should just about do it, I think. There we go. My recording stopped because I ran out of space before I could remove the shield, but I've removed the shield now, and you can see this is the circuitry. And you can also see the problem I'm pointing out here. So I'll just zoom in to show you a bit better. If we look at the cartridge slot here, the pin is highly corroded, definitely needs a good clean, and that is most likely the reason why we're not seeing any games coming up on screen, because it's not reading them via the cartridge slot. So what I'm going to do here is just using a toothbrush and some isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to go over all of these pins, making sure they're all clean, or trying to clean them as best I can with what I have. Here, I'll just show you a bit better. So there we go, that pin is actually looking a lot better than it did. In fact, that probably will work now because the bottom is quite clean. Although there is still a bit of corrosion at the top. Now that probably won't affect it reading a cartridge, but I want to get rid of that, try and clean it up as best I can. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just adding some white vinegar via this Q-tip. I'll leave that white vinegar on this pin for about 15-20 minutes. And white vinegar being acidic, you'd hope it will burn through and soften up some of that corrosion on the pin to make it easy to wipe off. So it's been about 15-20 minutes. And this is how the pin looks. Not too much different from how it did before. But what I'll do now is I'll clean it with isopropyl alcohol and a toothbrush, because that's probably, hopefully, softened it up. There we go. Look, much better. There's still some there, but it's looking a lot better than it did before. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll use these tweezers with a very fine point, just to scrape off any remaining corrosion there. Let's give it one more going over with the isopropyl alcohol and toothbrush. Okay, that should do it. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I can't even tell which one was corroded now. It's one on the far left bottom, and it's looking like the rest. Okay, let's give it another try. Now, something I didn't mention before, I'm hooking this up via composite cable via the display port there, and the power supply is actually positive on the outside of the barrel and negative on the inside, but my power supply is the opposite. So I had to reverse polarity using this dodgy crocodile clip arrangement, and it's working fine. So let's turn it on, take a look. No. Oh yes, fantastic. So it was a pin issue. Now you can see, I don't know if it picks it up on camera, but you can see these kind of scrolling horizontal fuzzy lines. And if I zoom in a bit closer, you can see that there. I wonder what's causing that. So I hooked up the Megadrive using the RF aerial cable instead to a different TV, and those lines have disappeared. So I'm pretty sure it's nothing to do with the Megadrive. It's probably something to do with the cable perhaps, or the TV itself, but I don't have those lines anymore, so I don't think it's something we have to fix with this particular console. Right, so I've just been testing games, and take a look at this. So Sonic Hedgehog 2 works just fine. Might and Magic, however, turn it on, nothing. I've also tested the Master System cartridge adapter, Ghostbusters. That's working fine for some games at least, so Ghostbusters is working great. But let's try Outrun, for instance, and I haven't been able to get Outrun working. So I'll show you what it does. Just a black screen. Now I still think this might be a pin issue. I just need to do more work. So I do think it is a problem with the cartridge slot, but before I touch that, This board is absolutely filthy. Take a look at this Q-tip. I just lightly touched the surface of the board with it and it's disgusting. So before I work on anything else, I'll just give it a quick clean. Also wanted to inspect the bottom of the board, so I undid the 3 Phillips screws on the top. So there's 2 either side of the cartridge slot and another one that's kind of hidden behind the audio jack on the front. And once I've got those 3 screws off, it lifts off fairly easily. The bottom was actually surprisingly very clean. I imagine not a lot of dust managed to get in there, given the shielding that was protecting it. But I cleaned it off anyway. And put it all back together before I started working on the cartridge slot again. So what I think the problem is that these pins here, they're not making contact with the cartridge, and not because they're not clean enough. I think they are clean enough, but because they are not sticking out enough. They're not actually making physical contact, because over time those pins, they lose their springiness, and that means that they don't stick out as much as they once did when they were kind of newer. So that means they don't make contact with the cartridge. So what I'm doing here is using this set of tweezers to go behind the pins and kind of bend them out a little bit without forcing them too much. I don't want to break them off because they are fairly fragile. So, but just gently tugging on the underside just to push them out a bit and bend them back to how they were when they were newer. Okay, the next thing I want to do here, and I'll just get the focus right before I start. Here we go. Excuse the wobbly board, I'm trying to hold it by hand just so I can show you. But what I'm going to do here, I'm using a different set of tweezers, just going behind each of the pins, these little wells behind the pins, and I'm squeezing the tweezers together once they're behind, just again to push the pins close to each other, or as close as I can kind of get them, so that when I put a cartridge slot in, I'm making sure that they're all making contact with that cartridge and can read it okay. And here we go. Yeah, it's working. So it wasn't the cartridge, it was the cartridge slot pins. And doing that with the tweezers, pushing them out, has obviously re-established contact, proper contact with the cartridge, and now it's working just fine. Let's try the reset button just to make sure that works. Yep, that's working fine too. So I think the Mega Drive is now fixed. So I just tried Outrun, and that is still not working. What we can see here. There you go, blank screen. So I do believe the Mega Drive is fixed. I think there might be a problem with the game adapter in this case, and you can see here actually there is a fiber in there, which I can blow it out. I don't think that would affect anything anyway, but just to let you know, I have cleaned these pins with isopropyl alcohol. I've also cleaned the contacts on the other side with isopropyl alcohol and a cotton bud. So they should be clean. They look clean enough to me. You know what? I think it might be just another case of over time they've lost their springiness, and I need to pop them back out. So I'm using tweezers here. I'm just going to try to bend them back out like I did for the cartridge slot on the Mega Drive. See if that does anything. So what I'm doing, also going behind the pins here and just giving them a push outwards as well. Right, there is a broken one here. I'm not sure if that's going to cause a problem, because when you put a game in, that will push that together, and it shouldn't cause an issue. Alright, so now I've bent all the pins forward. That break could be a problem, but let's test it out and see if it works now. There we go, so it's working. So it was again a connection issue, a pin issue on that cart. There is another problem with this cart in that it doesn't reset. That button on the front isn't resetting like it should. So I'm going to take it back to the mat and open it up to see what the problem is. So again, this cart is very easy to open. There's just 2 Phillips screws on the back. And we're in. Let's take a look. I'm trying to get this board out. I'm not sure if I can. Does that lift? It looks like it's stuck to the plastic. I could desolder those joints at the top and perhaps pull the board out itself, although that's a lot of work. I wonder if I actually do need to do that just to fix that button. So look, the button's behind here. It's got webs and all sorts of crap inside, so I imagine that's probably the problem. I have this little hook tool. Let's see if I can take some of that gunk out and give it a clean. I imagine if I clean it, and if I'm able to clean it, that might solve the issue, and I can then reset games using the cartridge. So if I can actually hook the button out itself, I can. Okay. Right, so I can get to the board underneath with, say, a cotton swab, some isopropyl alcohol. I can clean that without actually having to desolder all those joints and take the actual board out itself. So I'm going to try and take the button out completely. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure if I do that, I'll be able to actually get it back in. I mean, worst comes to the worst, I'll just have to desolder those joints and take the actual board off. But let's pick that out, because that's the only way I'm going to really be able to get under there and clean the board itself. So what I did then, I just cleaned the button with some isopropyl alcohol and of course the cotton swab. Also cleaned behind the board, sort of whereabouts the button contacts were, using again cotton swab and isopropyl alcohol. I thought while I was there I might as well clean the contacts again, just using a simple good old pencil eraser and finishing that off with again some isopropyl alcohol just to clean those contacts as best I could. Okay, now we're going to put this button back in, and this is going to be tricky. I've got a screwdriver here. If I can push it through that hole, that's fiddly. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. I might have to take the hole. Oh, here we go. No. That's almost, if I can get enough of it through, I can then just thread it through, put it through on the other end. Okay, I'm going to be using these tweezers. I think these might be better. They've got a finer point to them. Just can I put it through? It's there, and there's not enough of it to actually grab onto. Oh, here we go. There we are. Brilliant. Great, I think that's back to, just push the, yeah, I think it's back to how it was. Use the press in fine. A little bit of damage to it. Tiny bit of damage from pushing it through, nothing major, so it worked out okay. Well, let's see if it's now working. So here we have Ghostbusters, and I'll press the button. I'll just get ready to press that button. So there's the intro screen, and that should reset the game. There we go. Let's give it another try. There we go. That's working now. All it's left to do is put the Mega Drive back together. Now, I did encounter an issue putting it back together. Something fell out. This thing, I had no idea what it was. Turns out it was a washer that goes into this particular part of the case of the console. So if that happens to you, if you happen to be taking apart a Mega Drive and you notice this piece just randomly turning up on your desk, you're not sure where it goes, that's where it goes. Otherwise, it is all very straightforward putting it back together again, just as it was taking it apart. And so that's it. It was a fairly easy one today, fairly obvious problem, something you could solve just by visual inspection alone. I think visual inspection is honestly one of the most useful things you can have when you come to repairing electronics. So that's it for this video. If you have liked it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and you might also consider subscribing if you want to see me repair more things like this in the future. Thanks for watching as always, and hope to catch you in the next one.